'Cause these are my people, and this is my land. This is my land. This is what we pray for.
Using nefarious intent network.
Well, you've talked about password.
In an attempt to keep it hidden.
You won't understand. You won't understand. This is my country.
I thought everybody would want to know that the Biden administration has recently released one of the worst Russian cyber criminals that we knew about. One of the very worst. And you have to wonder, like, what did we get for that? Releasing a Russian cyber criminal right now. I mean, everything you hear out of the Biden administration is how tough they are on Russia, how they're exposing Russia. And so what would it be that would cause them to release Alexei Burkov? Alexei Burkov. Now, here are the key points on this particular cyber criminal that the Russians got back. In 2019, the Trump administration secured his extradition to the United States. He was pursued for years on hacking charges, identity theft, wire fraud, computer intrusion, money laundering. He had a website called Card Planet that sold credit card and debit card information, 20 million in fraud purchases. And then in August 2021, the Biden administration released him from federal custody. Our good friend, the leading Republican on the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, asked the FBI cyber chief about this decision from the Biden administration. Take a listen.
Why did the Biden administration release Burkov?
Sir, Mr. Burkov was investigated by the U.S. Secret Service, not by the FBI. I don't know specifics. What I do know is that there was no swap or concession, and it's my understanding that his release...
So we didn't get anything for it?
Sir, to the best of my knowledge, there were no swap or concessions.
Why do you think we... I mean, you've said Russia, your statements today, formidable foe, foremost adversary, and the threat is current. Mr. Burkov has been described as an asset of supreme importance, one of the most connected, skilled, malicious hackers ever apprehended by U.S. authorities, and you don't know why we let him go?
No, sir, it's a Department of Justice question. The
But you're the director of cyber at the FBI in the Department of Justice. It's part of the Department of Justice, right?
Sir, yes, sir, it is, but obviously we're our own agency.
Now, look, I read your bio, and other than the degree from Michigan, it's pretty impressive. You've worked at FBI for like 20 years, right? You've held all kinds of positions. You're the director of cyber, and you can't tell me why we let the most notorious Russian hacker go, and you don't know what we got for it.
No, sir.
Were you consulted?
It's not an FBI investigation.
But you're the cyber man. Just Mr. Gates just talked about you're the key guy. You're the guy the administration sent here today to talk about cyber in lieu of in light of the fact that last week President Biden said the threat from Russia is imminent. You've confirmed that today. You said it is current, is as we speak, and you can't answer if it was a good idea or not, whether you were consulted?
Sir, I don't actually no, to your question, I was not consulted.
You were not consulted. Okay. You think it was a good idea?
Sir, I'm not in a position to comment on that.
You always know when the FBI or DOJ or any other element of the national security apparatus say, not my department, not my purview, that there is something going on. There is something shady. And here you actually had the FBI cyber chief, who was not consulted on this, saying, oh, well, that's a Secret Service investigation. How could I possibly answer this question? Here's the real issue. Like, did the Biden administration send this guy to the Judiciary Committee explicitly because he didn't know? Because he couldn't answer these questions. See, the American people deserve robust oversight. It's the oversight that I think should embody every committee when Republicans take control of the Congress following the next election. But here you see how they're going to try to evade. Send people who are ignorant. Send people who maybe purposefully, maybe otherwise, are deprived of the facts. And we can't let the American people be deprived of those facts any longer. Now, he talks about the fact in there's no swap. I'm not aware of any swap for this Alexei Burkov guy. Let me posit one hypothetical. We are so desperate for an Iran deal right now because Joe Biden knows that these crushing gas prices are going to result in a wipeout for Democrats in the midterms. So they're so desperate to lower oil and gas prices, and they've posted up the way they have vis-a-vis Russia, that they've now backed themselves into a corner where they have to do a deal with Iran. They're dying to do the Iran nuclear deal. That very deal that floods Iran with money, to be able to not just continue their nuclear program, which they definitely still would, but also to engage in other malign influence, not just throughout the Middle East, but even here in the Western Hemisphere, especially in South America. So while posting up on Russia over Ukraine, the Biden administration is giving the Russians their hacker back so that they can potentially get favorable treatment from Russia to try to back Iran into a nuclear deal because of those poor foreign policy choices. That is how Americans are at risk from these decisions. Like, it is not just that we have a person who you saw Andy Biggs yesterday call a degenerating human in the Oval Office. It's that the decision-making process puts our financial system at risk, our critical infrastructure at risk, our businesses. Everything that Americans hold dear is endangered by the cacophony of strategic failures from the Biden administration, giving back Alexei Burkov, undeniably one of those failures. There is also breaking news regarding the 2016 election. Imagine that. Hillary Clinton's problems with fines and other issues, but really what I thought was quite telling about the spying and the lying came from my colleague Dan Bishop in the House Judiciary Committee. So we're all very well aware that we've got these Durham indictments that specifically go into the methods that the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign used to engage in illegal spying. Remember, while they were accusing Donald Trump of being an agent of the Russian government, just take a listen from Dan Bishop to what they were up to.
Director Vornum, has the FBI taken new steps since 2017 to ensure that private government contractors do not abuse access to sensitive U.S. government data stores for self-serving purposes, including political purposes?
Sir, I'm not familiar with the background of your question.
The DOJ claims in court that Rodney Jaffe, a.k.a. Tech Executive 1, exploited sensitive DNS data reflecting internet traffic to and from Trump Tower, to and from Donald Trump's personal residential apartment building, and the executive office of the president. He allegedly affiliated with Clinton campaign officials, including Michael Sussman, who had been a cyber lawyer at DOJ, and tech researchers at Georgia Tech to fabricate plausible-sounding but false allegations about connections between Trump and a Russian bank before the election in 2016 and then after the election about the use of a Russian-made phone. Both of these were scams. Mr. Sussman fed them to the FBI at the highest levels while concealing his political motives. So that's the background. And the question is, has the FBI taken new steps since 2017 to see that these awesome stores of sensitive data that the U.S. has are not being exploited for political purposes by private contractors?
Sir, I mean, compliance is obviously important to us. And, just taking a little bit broader view, we've obviously taken a lot of reform steps over the past couple years. Many of them have been in the public, whether it's FISA, Woods, 702. So I can't speak specifically to your question. I don't know the answer, but the Bureau has taken a lot of reform steps through that time period that all have been discussed in public forums such as this and in the media.
Well, you mentioned FISA, Woods, 702. So I think you're talking about the Woods file abuse in the FISA applications. I don't think I'm asking about that. Can you think of any reforms that have been taken specifically to see to it that this kind of private contractor abuse of these data stores can't happen?
Sir, not at this moment. I cannot.
No. What are the cybersecurity implications of a private company being able to intercept internet traffic to and from the White House?
Sir, I'm not here to talk about those matters.
You've said what you're here not to talk about. I'm a member of Congress asking you for something within your knowledge is a question you're bound to answer, sir. Do you know what the cybersecurity implications are of data being intercepted into and out of the White House?
Do I know what the cybersecurity implications are? If you're asking me if I know what the policy is that backs up when we can and cannot.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you what the implications are, the national security implications of intercepting data in and out of the White House and a private company having access to that.
Yes, in general terms, yes.
There are exposures from that, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, sir.
This article from the Wall Street Journal entitled Durham Probe Reveals Government Access to Unregulated Data Streams, February 26, 2022. Have you seen that article?
No, sir, I have not.
It relates that the latest developments in the high-profile criminal probe by Special Counsel John Durham show the extent to which the world's internet traffic is being monitored by a coterie of network researchers and security experts inside and outside of government. There are concerns, obviously, about the privacy implications of private cybersecurity companies being able to tap into the web traffic and then give that data to government at any particular level without warrants or court orders. In what ways does the FBI rely on this kind of data in their investigations?
Sir, as I said earlier today, when you look at private sector broadly defined, but when you look at private sector a little bit more narrowly defined about who provides infrastructure for networks, servers, computers, et cetera, those network providers obviously see a lot of traffic. They see my personal traffic, they see your personal traffic on a very routine basis. We have subpoena processes that we go through to request that information when it's relevant to an investigation. So that is how we interact with those companies on a routine basis from an investigative perspective.
Well, my time's about to expire. What this article relates is that a lot of that information can be accessed without warrant. And that's exactly the problem I'm talking about. You've spoken 2 times to the priority given to the FBI at the highest levels to the imperative of protecting the rights of Americans, particularly First Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights. And I'm looking for some indication that those are more than empty words, more than just a platitude. I'm stunned that above all the things we've talked about today, that you can't even speak to something that an abuse that is out in public based on allegations of the Department of Justice involving the use of cyber data. Is there anything that you can offer to the American people to improve their confidence that the FBI is indeed protecting their rights beyond just platitudes?
The time has expired. The witness may answer the question.
Sir, you're very familiar with the legal process that we have to go through to obtain information from any number of companies or even from victims in certain cases. That is our baseline protocol of how we do business. I'm unfamiliar with the article, so I cannot speak to what it actually says in there.
Mr. Chairman, ask unanimous consent to submit for the record.